Welcome to the Learning Lounge Radio. Tonight, let's settle into a quiet story about childhood and how the words we hear early on can echo through a lifetime. This is a story of two paths. On one path, a child grows up with parents who feed confidence, warm, firm, and encouraging. On the other path, a child grows up with parents who are often critical, quick to point out what's wrong, slow to recognize what's right. We will walk these paths gently, noticing how each shapes the way a young person learns, loves, and lives. Imagine two children beginning in the same neighborhood, attending the same school, breathing the same morning air. Ava, whose parents practice warm guidance. Noah, whose parents lean on constant criticism. In Ava's home, effort is noticed. When she tries, her parents say things like, "I saw how you kept going, and you found a new way when it got hard." Their praise is specific and about the process, not about being perfect. The rules are clear and kind. If she breaks one, there are steady consequences and calm conversations. She feels held and seen. In Noah's home, mistakes are magnified. A good grade is met with, "Why not higher?" A drawing is scanned for flaws before it's put on the fridge. Rules exist, but they arrive with sharp edges, raised voices, tense faces, criticism meant to motivate. Noah tries to guess the right answer before anyone asks the question. As they grow, their nervous systems learn what to expect. Ava's body associates challenge with curiosity and support. Noah's body associates challenge with threat and evaluation. Research on attachment tells us that steady warmth, plus dependable boundaries, tends to build a secure base. A child's inner sense that the world is mostly safe, that other people are mostly reliable, and that they themselves are worthy and capable. When that base is shaky, children often become either overly anxious and approval-seeking, or distant and guarded, bracing for the next critique. In third grade, both children audition for the school play. Ava forgets a line. She laughs softly, takes a breath, and finds the next sentence. At home that night she hears, "I loved how you recovered." That took courage. She learns that mistakes are steps on a staircase. Noah forgets a line too. He freezes. He pictures the look he might get later. That night, the feedback is blunt. "You should have practiced more. You embarrassed yourself." He learns that mistakes are cliffs. Years of small moments shape what psychologists call a mindset. Children who hear encouragement aimed at strategies, how they tried, what they changed, how they persisted, tend to form a growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed. Children who hear fixed labels, "You're smart," when things go right, "You're careless," when they don't, often learn that ability is a fixed trait and that errors expose a permanent flaw. Then fear creeps in. Why try if failure reveals who you really are? By middle school, science fairs and team projects bring new tests. Ava volunteers to lead a small group. She isn't the loudest voice, but she's comfortable asking questions. When she doesn't know something, she says so and goes to find out. Research on self-determination shows that when kids feel supported in three needs, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, they internalize motivation. They work not just for approval, but because learning itself feels meaningful. Noah tries to avoid the spotlight. He edits his sentences before he speaks, triple-checking each word. If the group stumbles, he hears the phrases he's lived with. "Not good enough," "should have known better." Over time, frequent criticism can tune the brain to scan for errors and threat. Some children become rigidly perfectionistic. Others withdraw to protect themselves from the sting of evaluation. Either way, energy that could fuel curiosity gets redirected toward self-protection. High school arrives with harder classes and bigger feelings. Ava studies for a math exam and earns a lower grade than she hoped. She feels the sting, takes a walk, and then meets with her teacher to ask, "What did I miss? What can I practice?" At home, the conversation is calm. Let's look at what worked, what didn't, and what to try next. With this kind of coaching, the brain links effort with improvement. Stress rises, but it also resolves. Noah studies for his math exam too. When he sees the score, shame flushes through him. Shame says, "You are the problem, not 'this strategy didn't work.'" He hides the test in his backpack for a day. Later, the talk at home is heavy with disappointment. He promises to work harder, but inside he's building a suit of armor. Research finds that repeated harsh criticism is associated with higher anxiety and depressive symptoms, and with a form of perfectionism that looks disciplined on the outside but feels fragile on the inside. Social life develops its own weather. Ava has conflicts with friends, as all teenagers do, but she expects repairs are possible. She's willing to apologize and also to speak up. Being heard at home made space for that. Noah becomes an expert at predicting other people's moods. He reads rooms like weather maps, changing himself to avoid the next storm. Criticism trains children to overvalue other people's judgments and undervalue their own inner signals. Senior year brings a nerve-wracking rite of passage, a talk in front of the whole school. Ava feels nervous, sweaty palms, racing heart, but she's learned to name those sensations as signs that her body is preparing for something important. She breathes slowly and begins. She loses her place once and finds it again. People clap. The feeling that follows isn't "I am perfect," it's "I can do hard things." Noah is asked to speak too. He writes his talk carefully, polishing every sentence until it shines. The night before, he can't sleep. All he can picture is the moment something goes wrong. During the speech, a small stumble knocks him off balance. He recovers, but the rest of the day he hears only the trip, not the whole story. That is what constant criticism does. It shrinks the frame so that one imperfect brushstroke covers the entire canvas. College years bring freedom and the need to steer. Ava chooses a major, then changes it after discovering a subject that lights her up. In homes that blended warmth with structure, parents often invited children into problem solving. That practice now shows up as flexibility, the ability to pivot without calling yourself a failure. Noah chooses a major that seems safe. He worries about disappointing people, so he picks the path with the fewest visible risks. He does well on paper, but decisions feel like tests he can only fail or pass. Research on autonomy-supportive parenting suggests that when kids are allowed a voice in decisions, they build confident decision-making later. When choices are controlled by fear or criticism, decision-making often becomes anxious and brittle. Work life begins. Ava interviews for a job and doesn't get it. She feels the slump, then writes to thank the interviewer and asks for one piece of feedback. Over years, this habit builds a quiet superpower, resilience. Each no becomes information, not identity. Noah interviews for a job and doesn't get it. The rejection confirms what his inner critic already whispers. He avoids applying for a while, telling himself he'll wait until he's really ready. That voice sounds responsible, but it's fear wearing a tidy suit. Studies of self-criticism showed that it's linked with avoidance and burnout. People push themselves hard, then collapse, then push again. Without the renewing effects of self-compassion, relationships deepen. Ava chooses friends who are kind and honest. When conflict happens, she assumes repair is possible because that's what she saw modeled. Errors acknowledged, feelings named, connection restored. Noah is drawn to people who feel like home. Sometimes that means warmth, and sometimes it means familiar criticism. Without noticing, he may recreate the same pattern and call it fate. If you press pause here and step back, you'll see two themes repeating. First, children need both warmth and structure, love that says, "You matter," and guidance that says, "Your choices matter." This blend, often called an authoritative style, is consistently associated with higher confidence, better self-regulation, and healthier relationships. Second, the way adults respond to mistakes writes the rules of learning. When feedback focuses on effort, strategies, and next steps, the brain treats mistakes as data. When feedback is harsh, global, or shaming, the brain treats mistakes as danger. And yet, the story is not fixed. People change, parents change. Children grow into adults who can learn new languages for love. If you recognize yourself in Noah's path, it's not a sentence, it's a map. Small, consistent experiences of encouragement can retune a nervous system. Therapy helps, mentors help, friends who notice what's right help. Self-compassion practices, a hand on the heart, a kinder inner voice, help the brain feel safe enough to learn again. If you're a parent listening, here are gentle practices that research and experience both support. Notice effort more than outcome. "I saw you stick with that." Use descriptive praise. Name what the child did, not who they are. Be warm and firm. Kindness in your tone, clarity in your limits. When you overreact, repair quickly. "I was too harsh. Let's try that again." Invite voice and choice. "What's your plan? How can I help?" And teach a growth lens. Skills grow with practice. Mistakes show us where to practice. If you grew up with steady encouragement, consider how you can pass it on. At home, at work, with friends. If you grew up with heavy criticism, consider how you can become the encourager you needed. One kind sentence, repeated over time, can become a bridge out of an old story. Years pass. Ava and Noah meet again at a community event. They talk about work, family, and the strange ways life unfolds. Both have joys and struggles. Both are still learning. Ava now has a habit of asking good questions of herself and others, and of treating difficulties as teachers. Noah, too, is changing. He has begun to notice the voice in his head and to answer it differently. When it says, "You'll never get this right," he adds, "I'm learning." When it says, "Don't try unless you can guarantee success," he adds, "Trying is how success begins." These are small sentences, but over time, small sentences become the scaffolding of a new life. What we feed grows. When we feed children steady encouragement and clear boundaries, we grow courage, curiosity, and care. When we feed them frequent criticism, we often grow fear, perfectionism, and hiding. But even then, with compassion and practice, people can regrow what they missed. Brains remain plastic, hearts remain teachable, and relationships remain powerful. As our story closes, imagine whispering to a child, perhaps the child you were, perhaps a child you love. 3 simple truths. You are worthy, even when you make mistakes. You can learn, especially when it's hard. And you are not alone. We learn together. Thank you for spending this time with the Learning Lounge Radio. If this gentle exploration brought you insight or peace, consider subscribing, leaving a kind comment, or sharing it with someone who might need encouragement today. May we all become gardeners of confidence in ourselves and in each other. Until next time, be well, be gentle, and keep learning.